Today, I'll show you how I made these foam skipping stones, and then we're gonna test them in the pool here and see how they do. Interested? Here we go. This is a great little research design project, STEM project, STEAM project, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why is because you're using shape, weight, and aerodynamics, hydrodynamics, and roughness and smooth surfaces. So there's lots going on here. You can do all sorts of iterations. And we've been working on this for a week or so solid every time we go to the pool and there's nobody else there, so that we can narrow this down. Right now the winning contender seems to be this small guy, the 2.5 inch, but I think that's only because it's pretty heavy. So I'm going to weight these guys out a little bit more and see if it makes a difference. All these supplies to make a bunch of these guys, you could probably make 10, 15 of these things for under $5, certainly under 10. These guys will skip. We've seen about 20. Pretty obvious that they're skipping across the water before they go and float. For this build, you're going to need some washers, some of this EVA foam. You can get a sheet of it for a couple bucks. Hole saws are nice, but not necessary. You could use scissors and cut these shapes out just by making a pattern. I'm using a round-shaped head combo of number 10s, 24. I also have 1-inch version of this, depending on how many the washers we put on there. They stack up pretty quickly. And then you don't need as many as 100, but I use these number 10, 24 coarse thread nylon lock nuts. And the reason why is because they're not going to hurt anybody. They just stay on there well. And some number 10 washers. They don't have to be stainless. You can get these rather cheaply. For $1 you can get dozens of them. So we're on a quest to come up with the ideal floating skipping stone. We've tried all sorts of different shapes. We've tried not cutting and angling the shape. We've tried not putting weights on, and we've tried really making it heavy. And the best one so far in the running is this one here. So it weighs 1.5 ounces between the screw and the washers. There's 3 things to consider when making these floating skipping stones that I'm calling them. The texture on one side and no texture. We want something that's kind of aerodynamic or hydrodynamic, and we want to have something that has weight or heft to it. Originally I started out with an old CD and I used a poker chip here and I had a little weight here, and I actually took some wire and spent a good bit of time like almost a pseudo frisbee. And the problem with this is it sunk pretty quickly, and when it dug into the water it just torpedoed. It just went down. Whereas if we came up with something like this, and this is 1/2 inch EVA foam, probably 14 centimeters. I think the 1/4 inch is probably not enough, and 3/4 inch is probably too much. We have a bunch of mats left over from when the kids were younger, and I'm just putting different weight combinations. In this one I actually tried a CD on the back, trying to reduce the resistance of the foam, because if you feel the foam, it's got a little bit of a friction to it, whereas the CD is fairly frictionless compared to the foam. But then there's advantages here. I was thinking as it dug into the water, that may be a factor. Okay, so put those off to the side, and then we're going to try to figure out what the best weight combination is. Because I went out and I got the biggest reasonable washers I could to weight these guys down. And then we'll go out and test it in the pool. You could test this out in the wild, but then you have to go somehow recover them. We're using several different hole saws. You can see that we've cut one out here, we've cut a couple out here already, and a couple out here already. This one here is 2.5 inches. This one here, 4 inches, and then this one here is 5 inches. I'll post below where you can get this hole saw. So you come in here like this, you try to kind of match an area. It's like making cookies. You want to make sure you have safety glasses on and goggles, and this is just to help so that when you drill, you're not drilling through the table, you're drilling through a piece of wood, and that helps stabilize the cut. So I'm getting in here as best as I can. This is the 4 inch. Okay. You can see it goes all the way through. Now, if you're a little nervous about it, you can stop there, but I want to cut it all the way through. So I'm going to put it back in, find my hole, and here we go. And then I'm going to make a couple more of these, and then I'll show you how I put one together. You can see that this craft foam or floor foam gives off a lot of dust. So you want to be aware of that. Do it in a unconfined area, some place where you can easily clean it up, and wear a mask. And you might find something differently if you're doing these tests. We found that even though this is smooth, the rough surface actually bites into the water just enough to help keep the thing skipping along its path. In order to get this contour, and it doesn't have to be perfect, is I'm just coming in here at about a 45-degree angle, and if you make a mistake, no big deal, just cut out some more because they're relatively cheap. The other thing that I like about this as opposed to some of our earlier prototypes is if you hit somebody, this might hurt. Whereas these guys are just foam and they just kind of knock off the side of everything. They don't damage it. Now you got these little scarves here. You could sand those down if you wanted. And so you can see the difference between the uncut side and the cut side. And then you just do the same thing on the other end. Another thing you could possibly do is you could change the contour, the shape of the edge, like we've done here, to see if there's any subtle differences in performance. But I think what you're going to find is, just like rocks, there's all sorts of different options. It's about developing a throwing technique. Okay, so that guy is a little smoother on that side as opposed to this side. And that's got kind of a nice little chamfered edge there. You would think bigger is better, but our indications show that because there's so much more surface area and more foam, I think you got to weigh this guy down significantly to get it to perform. After I've done this enough, come up with a weight to surface area versus number of washers and come up with some sort of ideal calculation. But we're just in the trial and error phase at this point. All right, so we got a little bit of a difference there, and that's fine. Doesn't have to be perfect. Each one of these comes out unique and special. If they were all the same, then you may not learn anything. The great thing about the hole saw is it actually puts the center hole where you need to load it up. These washers are 2 millimeters thick, or 1/16 of an inch. They're 1.5 inches long, and the hole is 3/8. That's why you need some of these smaller washers so that the nut and the bolt don't fall through. For comparison purposes, this is the 2.5 inch. That's 1 ounce, and this is our most successful one, 1.5, 1.4. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh 5 washers. And that's 2.2 ounces. And I'm going to put the foam 2.7. And then if I put another couple washers in there, I think we're going to be around 3 ounces. So I'm going to focus on getting this guy 3 ounces. So let's measure the ones we have now so we got something to compare with. This guy is 2.75 ounces. This guy is 2.35 ounces. It seems like the heavier we make these guys, the better they're throwing. 4 ounces of components, then we're going to build this up. But you can see there's a significant number of washers. Let's build it up. I want to make it as potentially symmetric as possible, meaning I'm going to put the weight on the top and the bottom as best as I can. And I'm trying to, you can see that I've actually beveled it down by squeezing it down and pressing it in. Well, let's see. I think it's going to be a little challenging though. Since we've been pitching this around with a certain degree of success at 3 ounces, I'm going to try 3.75 ounces as the next step. By the way, 3.75 ounces is 108 grams. And the one we've been throwing is 86 grams. So once you got these all kind of in place, then you take a screwdriver, it's the Phillips head, and a number 10 wrench, and just start tightening it up. We intentionally want this thing to be in the center and to press down on the foam so we can kind of get a little bit of a donut shape or a sandwiched shape, because I'm thinking that might help with the aerodynamics as opposed to just having all this stuff hanging out there when you throw it. Alright, so this is a 3.75, and I'm just kind of straightening it out. I've got one, maybe two threads showing on that side, so it's nice and safe and it's not going to unwind, and yet it's significantly heavier than this guy. Alright, so let's weigh these other two and see what we got here. 67 grams, 78 grams. After a bit of trial and error, I've come up with a range of weights for each class or each width of foam skipping stones. We've got 107, 86, and 81 grams, and I'm just doing it all in grams because of sensitivity. We have a 78, a 98, and a 73, and then a 30 and a 41. 41 sinks, and that is the best one to date, but it might have everything to do with how it fits in the hand. So I'm thinking with a little extra weight we might get some slightly better performance. Now let's just take it to the pool and see how it works out, and hopefully there won't be anybody else there so we can do it safely and not injure any non-combatants. Throw away. Holy moly. That was the smallest one?
Yeah.
And you're using the textured side?
Yeah.
Okay. Look how many that had. Are you counting them? I guess we can count them later.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Taylor got 5.
And you're doing frisbee technique, right? Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 41, smooth side.
Okay. Okay.
30, texture.
Okay.
78, smooth.
Okay. Don't get that guard.
86, textured.
Okay.
73, textured.
Okay. Okay.
107, smooth.
Wow. Thumbs up and comments always appreciated. Thanks for watching. This was a fun build. It's got a lot of potential. We're just skipping the surface here as it is on this design. Look forward to your comments below on what you think and how we might be able to improve this. If you're interested in these kind of things, sports builds, making and breaking things, home repairs, cosplay, cooking, gardening, check out my channel and please subscribe, because you never know what you're going to see.